Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to talk about twin flames and answer some of the more fundamental questions like what are they, how do they work, and how are they different from other types of relationships. Now, there are many different types of energetic and spiritual connections like soulmates, kindred spirits, and other mystical bonds, and of course, among these are twin flames. In this video, we can explain what twin flames are, how they work, and what it means to be in a twin flame relationship. We'll cover both the scientific perspective as well as an everyday understanding. By the end of the video, you should have a clear idea of what twin flames are and how to navigate a twin flame relationship if you find yourself in one. Now, we have many videos covering different topics about twin flames, but this one is all about what twin flames are. On this channel, we talk about spiritual and metaphysical concepts, and these are things that you can't really see or measure, but you can feel and experience them. And because of that, words can only go so far in what they can explain. What really matters is how these ideas resonate with you in your own life and experiences. We use terms like twin flame, ego, soul, mind, energy field, and these are just labels. They're just signposts or pointers for things that we actually experience. And each of us experiences these things from our own unique perspective. So the key with all of this is to tune into your intuition and follow what feels right for you. If something doesn't fit or doesn't quite resonate with you, that's okay. You might find the missing piece later, or maybe even from somewhere else. Look, there's so many of us across the planet and so many different life experiences. It's not a one-size-fits-all, but at the end of the day, we're all heading in the same direction. All right, with all that said, let's start with the basics. What exactly are twin flames? So when people talk about twin flames, they usually mean two people who meet in the physical world, but who are believed to come from the same soul. Now, there are many different definitions and interpretations and explanations for what twin flames are, but they all generally agree that twin flames are two people who come from the same soul. This dynamic is what makes the twin flame connection different from any other type of relationship. The main reason behind this is that all other relationships are between two different souls. This is going to be something that's really important to internalize. Every other relationship with anyone or anything else involves two distinct energy fields. But with twin flames, there's only one energy field involved. It's the same soul relating to itself as two separate individuals. Your twin flame is the only other external entity in the universe that is you at the energetic level. That's what twin flames are, and that's what we'll cover in this video. With that in mind, we'll start by explaining this in a more scientific and logical, nuts and bolts kind of way. And after that, we'll look into what it means and how it all works in a more practical sense. We'll break down what's happening and then talk about living with it and navigating it skillfully. All right, so we're going to start by tackling some of the big questions that we see, like how do you know if the person you're dealing with is your twin flame? How do twin flames fit in with incarnation and reincarnation? And practically speaking, what does it mean if only one twin flame is alive physically? We'll also be looking at these questions from a more scientific perspective as well. Well, let's start with one of the really basic questions. And this question is two parts to it. Does everyone have a twin flame, or are twin flames a limited group of people? To answer the first part of this question, does everyone have a twin flame? Yes. Everyone has and is part of a twin flame pair, and I'll explain what this means a little more detail as the video progresses. But as for the second part of the question, no, twin flames are not a limited or select group of individuals. Twin flames are just part of how a soul's energy or consciousness exists in the physical world. And this is just because of the laws of duality, polarity, balance, and the conservation of energy, which we're also going to go into in a little more detail as the video goes along. But if you are conscious in the physical world, you have a twin flame. And if you're aware of yourself as a physical being, then you have a twin flame. Now let's talk about how to know if someone you've met is your twin flame. Now, for more details on this, please check out the video we have on the channel about the 5 signs of twin flame relationships. But essentially, these signs come down to two main things. The first is energetic intensity, and the second is an inner knowing coupled with outer doubt. So first, let's look at the energy intensity. It usually starts with a honeymoon period at twin flame recognition, where there's just an instant connection and chemistry, a loving, innocent, open, and free connection. Now, there are still some deep triggers in this phase, but for the most part, it feels like coming home. After a few weeks or months, you will go through a really tough period, also known as the dark night of the soul. With obsessive thinking and overwhelming energy, it feels like you're just getting crushed in almost every moment of your waking hours, and you can also barely sleep. It's an automatic, overwhelming force that takes on an energy of its own. And these are the two major phases when we're talking about energy intensity with twin flames. The second part of this is the intense doubt and inner knowing. Now, if you find yourself genuinely turning over in your mind very intensely about whether or not someone you've met is your twin flame, and it really bothers you to the core, that's likely coming directly from your soul. And if it's a message that you can't turn off, this is probably coming from your inner knowing. And if during all this, there is synchronicity and you feel like there's a greater hand orchestrating the entire situation through tangible signs and synchronicities, this is the second part of the two major indicators. If you just know deep down inside that what you're experiencing is true, but you can't seem to find any solid ground to stand on, this is the intense doubt that we're talking about. These are the two main ways to figure out if you're in a twin flame situation. And so the next question, what happens if one twin flame is alive and the other one isn't? What happens between you and your twin flame then? And this raises questions about death, reincarnation, and other related topics. To understand this, we need to look into metaphysics and figure out what it means to be alive and what it means to be you. You are not just your body, you have a body. You are not your mind or your energy field. You have a mind and energy field. The real you is you at the soul level, or your consciousness. And that's what makes you who you are, apart from everyone else. Now, ultimately, we are all one at the spiritual level and beyond. But as part of the dichotomy of existence, there is this element of uniqueness and individuation at the level of the soul. Not separation, but individuation. This is what makes each of us our own unique individual. Now, knowing this helps explain what it means to be alive, or to be quote-unquote dead, right? Our true self, our soul, is eternal. And it's really important to understand these things, because it sheds greater light on exactly what life and death are, insofar as we have understood them to this point, in that the soul can leave the body, and this is what we call death. But our soul's energy, or even the mind, or our energy field, continues to exist eternally. If one twin flame isn't physically incarnated, they're still alive in their energetic form. They might not be detectable through sight or any of the five senses because they don't have a physical body, but you can still connect with them energetically through your mind, which is your shared energy field, just as you would during separation, even when you're both physically incarnated. And this is actually the practice that you're mastering in the twin flame journey. It's that union transcends any form of separation, whether that be distance, time, or even something like death. Whether either one of you is alive or not, it's important to remember that the real you is your soul, not your body or even your mind. And that twin flames are two separate eos that are the result of polarity at the level of the mind, and they continue to exist energetically even beyond the body's physical death. Okay, now that we have a clear idea of who we are and what makes you unique, we can start exploring some of the more complex dynamics of twin flame connection. But before we go any further, I just want to say a quick thanks to all you guys for tuning in. If you're enjoying the videos, learning anything new, and you want to show some support, remember to hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment to share your thoughts, and also feel free to share the video to spread the word. Your support and engagement mean a lot. Thank you. Okay, so let's get into the details about what twin flames are and how they work from a more scientific and nuts and bolts perspective. We've already talked about what makes you who you are, which is your soul, and your soul is unique and different from every other soul. All souls come from the one source, but each soul is like a distinct fractal or droplet extension of that source energy. We're all merged together and fit together in this giant universe, but each one of us is an individual energy unit. And each one of these units is what we call a soul. Now, the physical world works based on certain laws. These laws have been understood and explained over time by various enlightened and scientific minds. And as time goes on, we continue to learn more and evolve in our understanding. But at its core, the physical universe, as we understand it, operates on the principles like duality, conservation of energy, and balance. This means that for anything to exist physically, there must be an equal and opposite of it. So for up to exist, there has to be down. For hot, there has to be cold. For north, south. For dark, light. For evil, there is good. For love, there is fear. And so it goes. Everything physical, including what we can sense with our five senses and the metaphysical aspects that we can't sense, all follow this basic principle of duality. Now, when it comes to consciousness, for your soul to take form and participate in the physical space and to be aware of itself, it has to work with the same dual polarity structure. And this is what twin flames are. Twin flames are the physical manifestation of the two polarities coming from one energy field originating from one soul. Now remember, each soul is unique and has its own energy field and vibration. So with other people you meet, whether they are soulmates, karmic connections, soul family members, or anything beyond that, each one of them is their own soul. But when you're dealing with a twin flame, they are not a separate person from another soul or a different energy field, but instead, they come from your same energy field. The soul that you know yourself as is the same soul that creates their existence. So they are not a separate person. They're not a soul family member, and they're not a soulmate. They are you. And this is important to understand because it's why the energy is as intense as it is. Now, for a soul to exist physically or energetically, it has to follow the laws of the physical universe, which means that there will be polarities and two separate expressions of the same energy. These two are doing the same thing vibrationally, but in opposite directions. Otherwise, the soul's energy couldn't participate in the physical universe. This is the scientific basis for what's happening with twin flames. Okay, now that we've covered the basics, let's talk about what it means in real life and in a more practical sense. Twin flame relationships are unique, and this uniqueness affects how we view them and how we experience them in our day-to-day lives. First, anyone who's been through a twin flame journey knows its intensity, both positively and negatively. The different phases, especially the dark night of the soul, are really intense and very magnetic. This is one of the first things to understand and to get a hold of. The next is, what's the purpose? What's the purpose of all this? Why do twin flames beat? And the usual answer for this is that the main reason that they come together is to trigger spiritual awakening, as well as to promote personal growth and evolution. This is what we've understood so far. It puts you on the fast track to spiritual growth and transformation in ways that you wouldn't have experienced otherwise. And this is what the twin flame experience truly unlocks. Another important thing to understand is that twin flame relationships don't conform to normal societal standards. It will change any norms that don't fit in with your highest good and the ultimate expression of who you are. And that's what your soul is ultimately seeking to do here on Earth. It's what you are truly about at the deepest levels of your consciousness. And with that, let's get into some of the practical details. Okay, so first we need to understand what exactly is going on with this energetic intensity. This intensity comes from the level of closeness with your twin flame, who is an exact energy match and a mirror of yourself. This connection brings a level of self-awareness that nothing else in the universe can provide. Because of this heightened self-awareness, again, this is because your twin flame is the only thing in the universe that is actually you and an exact energy match. Nothing else in the universe is you exactly and energetically. Now, because of this heightened self-awareness, which reaches the core of who you are energetically, it shakes up everything in your life. Anything that's not aligned with your true self becomes a point of friction and resistance and can cause intense emotion, pain, and suffering. This intensity comes from the direct energy match and the fact that what you're dealing with is an external ego that's actually you energetically. This deep impact and mirroring can't be achieved any other way. It can't be achieved with any other member of your soul family or any circumstance or anything like that. And this is because a twin flame is a physical entity that is actually you, allowing for contact and a deep energetic impact unlike anything else you can experience. Now, with a high-level soulmate or soul family members, you can go pretty deep. Many such karmic relationships and cycles manifest as narcissistic, codependent systems and other things of that nature. These also serve to push you deep into these negative karmic cycles to work through and work out some of the deeper issues, ultimately pushing you out of the karmic cycles and into the higher purposes like Dharma. But nothing is as deeply triggering as a twin flame. And a twin flame doesn't even have to try. The only thing they have to do is literally to be in the same physical space as you and have a short encounter to trigger you all the way to your core in ways that you have never been triggered before. That's the level of intensity that we're talking about. And next, we're going to take a look at the purpose behind it. Like, what exactly is the point of meeting your twin flame? So, what's the point of meeting your twin flame? Why does your soul or the universe put you through this intense suffering? And what's it all about? Now, we've touched on this a little bit already, but let's go a little deeper with this. You've probably heard that twin flames are meant to be together or that they're meant to trigger spiritual growth. And while this is true, it's not really the whole story. What's happening here is that as your soul becomes more conscious through the process of evolution, different parts of you start to show up in the physical space in different ways. Lately, humanity has been raising the level of consciousness, and you can see this in our technology and our daily lives. A big part of this is our growing understanding of spiritual concepts such as the law of attraction, our spiritual nature, and our energetic connections with others. And while even throughout history there have been records of various individuals, some of them more enlightened minds and spiritual teachers that have actually met and been with their twin flames in the physical world, what we're seeing now are larger waves and collectives of twin flames recognizing each other. And again, this is because of the rising level of consciousness on the planet. Now, as your soul evolves, connecting with your twin flame is just the next natural step once you get to a certain place. If both twin flames are physically incarnated, they meet in the physical world in one way or another. If they're not both physically incarnated, but even if they are, they first unite in the metaphysical realm, like during the glimpse phase. So what's the purpose? Well, there isn't a specific purpose in the egoic sense. It's more of a natural progression and outcome. When you reach a certain level of consciousness, it's natural for twin flames to find each other. That's really all there is to it. When they meet, they might look like strangers, but there's a deep connection that goes beyond anything. This is because they share the same soul and energy field, which can be a bit confusing from the perspective of the ego. This confusion is natural because your system is overloaded with more energy than you're used to handling, and you might find yourself wondering, why am I so drawn to this person? Why can't I stop thinking about them? And then there's this sequence of events like, what's the purpose behind all of it? The best way to make sense of all these events with twin flames is to view them through the lens of spiritual awakening. You see, on the physical level, it doesn't make much sense. I mean, there's no logical explanation for what's going on, and this is because the relationship and the connection are happening at the level of the soul. It's not even so much a relationship, it's actually that you are the same soul. And what this calls for is a shift in your perspective, from understanding and viewing things from the level of the ego to understanding yourself from the level of the soul. If you're dealing with a twin flame connection, there's really no other way to navigate it. Now, when we're talking about spiritual awakening, it's typically triggered by major negative events. Even many of the personalities and thought leaders in spirituality, when they talk about their journeys into enlightenment, they usually come through some form of deeply negative events. And the reason why this is the way that it is because when we're talking about suffering, the only way to truly step out and go beyond it is to transcend it through spiritual awakening and not through any mental or physical efforts. And the reason this is the way that it is because at the level of the ego, when it comes to suffering, the only thing you can do is manage or suppress it. But there are certain types of suffering that cannot be suppressed, and the twin flame connection is one of these. You can try to hide from it, but it will continue to come after you year after year, and it will trigger you very deeply over and over again until you step into the spiritual awakening. So what does this mean practically? It means that if properly handled, this relationship will energize your life in new ways. It will impact your spiritual evolution, your understanding of energy, and even your physical circumstances. On top of this, it will also help clarify your mission and your intentions for this life, bringing them into action in a way that nothing else can. It's really a fundamental change in how we think about ourselves and how we think about relationships. It's a paradigm shift. It's a whole different kind of relationship style, a style that eventually we'll use to relate with everyone else and even everything else in life as our consciousness continues to elevate. Many people consider twin flames as simply another type of romantic relationship with the goal of getting engaged, buying a house, and living happily ever after. But twin flames are not another conventional thing. It will be different at the very fundamental level. It's about shifting to a whole new way of living. Now, on the outside, you might end up getting engaged, buying a house, and living happily ever after. But on the inside, that's not what it's about, and that's not what's happening. And it's not about getting that. It's going to be different, and there will be things about you that stand out. There's nothing wrong with living things out according to the model of societal expectations. It's just that we're all unique, and we all have different intentions and things that we aim to express in this light. And that's what twin flame relationships bring up to the surface. It's about stepping out into life where all possibilities are open to you, with you living out your highest choice in each moment. It's about walking in your power and realizing the most magnificent ideal and grandest version of who you are in each moment. A big part of this is letting go of things that have held you back, even if they are normal part of life and societal expectations. And as you live this way, you'll constantly be leveling up to higher and higher states. But there will be times of trial and great discomfort. But when you truly walk the spiritual path and tap into who you really are, your life improves in many ways. That's the purpose behind twin flames. Now, on a physical level, when it comes to twin flames coming together in real life, it's really simple. It's the same thing that brings birds together as a flock, and it's the same principle that keeps the cells of our bodies together and not just randomly floating in space. It's just the natural principle of cohesion. At a certain level of consciousness, twin flames just naturally come together and stay together in the physical world. That's just what happens. They don't need to be lovers. They don't need to get married. There aren't any requirements. But if they do get married, and if they do become lovers, it's just the next natural thing to do. Ultimately, it always comes down to free choice and just following what the heart says to do. The key to this whole thing is just to let go of resistant energy or the feeling of the need to get control of things. Just embrace the energy of love, which is just who you are. This brings freedom and allows you to breathe. And what you want to do is to apply this same level of energy, not just to your twin flame connection, but to all aspects of your life, your friends, family, daily interactions, and even in your work. Do what you can to assist others in realizing the highest versions of themselves, helping them move forward without trying to control them or to get them to fit to your expectations. And give yourself this same love and allow yourself to grow and evolve. And in fact, put yourself first. And with that, let's go ahead to this next section. All right, next up, let's talk about what twin flame relationships are like and what makes them unique. The nature of a twin flame relationship is connected to the different levels of existence and the energies of love and fear. When you're guided by spirituality, your main experiences are peace, love, and joy. But when the ego takes charge, your tactics become about control, limitation, and force. Now in this last part of the video, we're going to talk about how you can activate more of your consciousness to move your mind from ego-based fear energy to soul-based love energy. This change helps you find inner peace, stop compulsive thinking, and get past the suffering and the negative emotions that come with the twin flame when stuck in ego. Ultimately, this shift brings you to a place of peace and joy and naturally leads to twin flame union in the physical world. Okay, before we get to this last section, if you're enjoying the content or learning anything new, remember to hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and share the video to get the word out. All right, next up, let's talk about what twin flame relationships are like and what makes them unique. The nature of twin flame relationships is connected to the different levels of existence and the energies of love and fear. Ultimately, all energy is love energy that comes from Source, the universe, or what some people call God. But in the physical universe, love is like anything else. When it becomes physical, it has to have an opposite, and that opposite is what we call fear. And so going back to twin flames, we're talking about a connection that's unbreakable. It's a connection that isn't based on any human-made agreements or structures. It's woven into the fabric of the universe and who you are. You don't choose or decide who your twin flame is, and you can't make an agreement with someone to become twin flames. And when we're talking about physical stuff, it's not tied to anything like race or biology. It's not about location or any other physical boundaries, constraints, or attributes. This bond exists at the soul level, and this isn't limited by time or space. Your twin flame could be on the other side of the world, on the other side of the universe. You might not have met them in this lifetime, but still, day after day, year after year, you think about them regularly, sometimes without even knowing who you're thinking about or why. And this again is because of the indestructible nature of the twin flame bond or twin flame union. So now let's dive into the different planes and how the whole thing works and comes together. When we think about what makes up an individual or who you are, we can break it down into 3 levels. First, there's the spiritual realm. This is where your soul is, and also where source energy or God ultimately sits. Then there is the metaphysical realm, which is where your mind or your energy field exists, as well as your imagination, astral body, and such. Finally, there is the physical realm, which is where your body exists. This is where you can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. This is a material world. When it comes to twin flames, the split begins on the physical level, when transitioning from metaphysical into physical, from energy into material. This is where our egos exist. The ego is the first point of the split, acting like a bridge between the metaphysical and the physical world, like a middle ground between your mind and your body. It includes how we think about ourselves, our mental constructs, and the status or our status in the world, which eventually manifests as separate lives and physical bodies. The split happens because of the polarized energy at the mind level, because of the laws of physics, balance, duality, which we talked about earlier in the video. And this is why twin flames appear as 2 separate individuals. On a metaphysical level, there's just one mind or energy field. And this is where your imagination and your astral body or energetic essence are. At the energetic level, there is only one of you. But at the level of the metaphysical, this energy has 2 sides or polarities. It's like the planet Earth. It's one planet, but it has a north and a south pole. There's only one globe, but the globe has a north and a south. This is where love and fear come into play as 2 different types of energy. Your mind can choose to focus either on love or fear, and you'll know where your thoughts are headed by paying attention to how you feel. The energy of fear feels tight and negative, while the energy of love feels peaceful, free, and joyful. And finally, on the spiritual level, your soul is a single and whole entity. This is who you truly are, your spiritual self. At this level, there is just pure love, peace, and joy. These feelings come from being whole and united. There's nothing you need to do, nothing you need to have or to strive for. Now, going back to the mind, at this level, or the energy field, The energy can either be love or fear. The mind can either be based in ego or can be based on the soul. On a purely physical level, which is where the eagles live, we deal with the energy of separation and separateness, which is just another way to describe fear. And fear is an illusion and based in illusions. And it's not an absolute reality in and of itself. Separation is an illusion. When you decide what to focus on, you can choose to align your energy either with love or with fear. And naturally, if you're making the decision consciously, you will choose to feel good, which is love. So now we're going to take a look at the polarities with twin flames. Think of it like a system with an input and an output. The input side of your consciousness is the cause, and the output side is like the effect. The divine feminine, also known as the chaser, takes the lead in the direction of the flow of energy, and the divine feminine is like the cause side of the polarity, or the input of consciousness into the physical world, and the divine masculine is like the effect or the output side of your soul's consciousness. Remember, it's not two individuals with one doing one thing and another doing another. Think of it like a battery. It has a plus side and also a minus side, but the energy that's flowing is one energy stream. It goes in one side and out the other. When your mind connects with the ego, you start seeing everything through fear and separation. But if you shift your perspective from ego to soul, you align with love. As your consciousness becomes more active, you naturally gravitate more toward love. When you're guided by spirituality, your main experiences are peace, love, joy. But when ego takes control, your tactics become about control, limitation, and force. In this last part, we'll talk about how you can activate more of your consciousness to move your mind from ego-based fear energy to soul-based love energy. This change helps you find inner peace, stop compulsive thinking, and get past the suffering and negative emotions that come with the twin flame when stuck in ego. Ultimately, this shift brings you to a place of peace and joy and naturally leads to a twin flame union in the physical world. Okay, before we get into this last section, if you're enjoying the content or learning anything new, remember to hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and share the video to get the word out. Now, let's move on to the final part. So, what are the 2 steps to end the suffering and create space for twin flame union? It basically comes down to 2 things. First, detox or detachment, and second, magnetization. Magnetization is about aligning your energy field or your mind with your soul. Detox or detachment is moving your mind away from alignment with the ego. It's the same thing, but just 2 different phases. We're going to create a more detailed video about detachment and magnetization later, so keep an eye out for that. But in this video, we'll go over it and explain the 2 steps briefly. So, the first step is detachment or detoxification, and the goal is to reduce negative energy, stop resisting, and end the dark night of the soul and obsessive thinking energy. While magnetization and detoxification are connected, they do have different focuses. Detox is about letting go of any mental or physical attachments to your twin flame. To give yourself some space, you need to get them off of your mind. Now, I've been there. I know how complicated and intense this is, especially with the doubt. But really, the first step is to simplify things by giving yourself some space to breathe. A big part of this, once you've gotten a good grip on what's going on with twin flames, is you'll want to tune out from twin flame information for a while, at least until you're ready to get back into it. And you'll know, and again, it just comes down to follow your intuition, and from there, switch to more general spiritual content. Now, the most important step of this detoxification by far is cutting ties or energetic strains with your twin flame for a while. If you've cut off any contact already or they've done so, just think of it as a healthy and good first step. And this isn't so much about a certain time period or anything like that. What it is about giving yourself the space you need. This isn't always going to be the same for everyone. And again, always follow your inner guidance. Go all the way, but don't go further than you need to. Be genuine and make sure that you are taking care of yourself. This might mean deleting their contact information in some cases, or putting it away with services that keep you from being able to access certain information for a certain amount of time. And you could go for something like a year with this kind of service. It could also mean getting rid of shared items, shared accounts, distancing yourself from your mutual friends, or any other triggers that make you want to reach out to them either directly or sometimes even indirectly. Find a way to either completely remove these from your life or put them on hold for a while, like a couple years, to really just make a good, clean cut and give yourself some space to breathe. This helps clear the negative energy from your field. Now, once you start this process and your energy field begins to get clearer, a funny thing begins to happen. Your twin flame will probably unblock or even start trying to reach out to you. And again, this is just because the energy is clearing and it's natural for twin flames to come together, the same way that the birds of a flock or the cells of your body stay in the same place as each other. It's just what happens. But while you're still detoxing, you really need to keep an eye on your energy, because a lot of times they do come in with unsustainable energy. At this point, there's still a lot of fear in your energy field. This isn't the time to try to rekindle things. You're just basically allowing them to come in and go. Just simply give them the space and let them come and go. You want to keep a healthy emotional distance to keep yourself from getting triggered and getting back into the dark night of the soul energy. Okay, so now we'll move on to magnetization, which is the next step. Once you've detoxified and feel clean, healthy, okay, and you're not suffering anymore, it's time to move on to magnetization. And this is about aligning with your higher self in a more focused way. Again, this is just a natural progression. It isn't like you end detoxification and then start magnetization. They just blend into one another because it's the same process. And this is all about spiritual practices and exercise. Things like meditation, education, and other engaging high vibrational activities like physical exercise and taking care of your surroundings, your diet, and things along those lines. But it mostly revolves around meditation and learning. And with meditation specifically, because meditation is really when you come in contact directly with your soul in a real and tangible way. And again, just like we spoke about with detoxification, but even more so with magnetization, your twin flame will find their way into your life as you get deeper into alignment with the energy of your soul. Now, the reason why it happens this way is pretty simple. It's because whenever you tap into your soul's energy, that's the place where you are one. And that's the basis for twin flame attraction. And when the law of attraction kicks in, that's just what happens. But again, you want to avoid trying to spark things prematurely. Just allow them to move freely. Don't try to hold on. Take their presence as a sign that you're elevating your consciousness and moving in the right direction. There's no need to make anything happen through effort. When it's time for union, you'll just know. It'll be natural and it'll be seamless, and you won't have to try to do anything. Over time, you'll naturally become more involved in each other's lives. Eventually, you'll find yourselves seamlessly integrated in a permanent way, becoming one in the physical world just as you are in the spiritual realm. So that's a wrap for today's video. We've covered a lot about twin flames, starting with the basics and some scientific perspectives. Next, we talked about practical steps to bring this connection into your daily life. It really comes down to always being your best self, starting from within, and then allowing it to show on the outside. Remember, with this connection with twin flames, anything is possible. No matter how tough things seem, it's not a reflection of you or anything that you have done personally. It's just the way that the energy is moving at that point in time. When the energy aligns, miracles can and do happen. And we see it all the time in the twin flame community. If you find this helpful or interesting, please remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment. It really helps out. And thanks again for tuning in. You guys really are the best. See you in the next video and stay blessed.